To make it easier to work with CSS, Visual Studio provides the Css Properties window. By using it in Design View, you can very easily create and modify CSS styles. To begin this lesson, open the HTML test sample file from your Sample Files folder. And open css-test.aspx in Design View, if it isn't open already. Now, to display the CSS Properties window, click View, CSS Properties. Next, you're going to modify the big text style by using the CSS Properties window. First, select Div 1 by using the drop-down menu in the Properties window. That's the ordinary Properties window, not the CSS Properties window. The big text style that you created in Lesson 2.8 is shown in the Applied Rules box at the top of the CSS Properties window. It also shows that big text comes from the css-test.css file. Towards the top of the CSS Properties list, you can see the Font Size property, which is part of the Big Text CSS class. Beneath Font Size, you can see a complete list of the CSS properties that are available. You can use the CSS Properties window to set these just like you set properties in the Properties window. Here are a few other useful CSS properties. Font Family is used to select the fonts that are used by text. Display is used to change how an element is displayed. It's most often used to hide elements by setting it to None. Position is used to change how an element is positioned on the page. Width and height are used to set an element's width and height. Top and left are used to set an element's position depending on how the position property is set. Text align is used to align text, for example, to the left, right, or center. Vertical align is used to set how text is aligned vertically. Padding adds space to the inside of an element. Margin adds space to the outside of an element. And border adds a border around an element. Now use the drop-down menu in the CSS Properties dialog to change the font size property from XX large to XX small. The change appears immediately in Design View. Now open css-test.css from the Styles folder. You can see that the Big Text class has been automatically changed. Next, you're going to use the CSS Properties window to add a new style. Return to css-test.aspx in Design View. Select Div 1 if it isn't selected already, and either clear the class property in the Properties window, or right-click on Big Text in the CSS Properties window, and click Remove Class from the shortcut menu. This removes the reference to Big Text from Div 1. The text returns to its normal size, except for the first line. Now right-click in the Applied Rules box in the CSS Properties window, and click New Style. The New Style dialog appears. In the Selector box, enter .red text. Be careful not to enter 2 dots by mistake. Red text is the name of your new CSS class, which will work in exactly the same way as the big text class, which you created in Lesson 2.8. Now click the Define In drop-down menu and select Existing Style Sheet. This tells the dialog that you want to create your style in an existing CSS file, instead of creating a new file or creating an inline style. Click the URL drop-down menu and select styles/csstest.css. Now click the Color drop-down and select Red. And click OK. The text in Div 1 is now displayed in red. If you now open csstest.css, you can see that a new red text class has been automatically created with the color property that you selected. At the time when this video was made, there have been 3 versions of CSS, with CSS 3 being the latest version. Visual Studio 2012 is the first version of Visual Studio to support CSS 3 properties. CSS 3 enables some new properties, such as the opacity property. While CSS 3 is now well supported by the most up-to-date browsers, older browsers may be unable to deal with CSS 3. All of the properties that you will work with in this course are compliant with CSS 2, meaning that they should be supported by just about any web browser. Close Visual Studio now, saving your changes if prompted. You've now completed Lesson 2.9. Use the CSS Properties window.